Ukraine says it's making advances in its counteroffensive against Russian forces, but Moscow rejects the claims.
The UN Refugee Agency says the number of forcibly displaced people globally has reached a record high of over 108 million.
Ukraine says it's continuing to make advances and gain ground in its counteroffensive. Its forces claim to have captured more territory in the direction of Bakhmut, if only by some 250 meters. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, in a meeting with President Biden, agreed there had been progress, but added it was still early in Kyiv's renewed push against Russia's invasion.
The support that we are providing together to Ukraine is now making a difference on the battlefield as we speak, because the offensive is launched and the Ukrainians are making progress, making advances. It's still early days.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has other ideas. In a meeting with Russian military bloggers, he said Russian forces were destroying Ukraine's armory.
То есть там же не только, вот я сказал, сколько там, 160, свыше 160 танков, там 360 БМП, это же не вся натовская, там и еще советского производства, там бронетехника уничтожается, но прекрасно горят, как мы предполагали, и Брэдли, и эти Леопарды, да.
In Kiev, President Zelensky was meeting IAEA chief Rafael Grossi ahead of his visit to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to assess the impact of the breaching of the Kakhovka Dam last week. Meanwhile, the death toll in Zelensky's hometown of Kryvyi after an early morning strike on a building has risen to at least 6 people, with 25 more injured.
Donald Trump is whisked away by his security staff after his court indictment. The former US president pleaded not guilty to historic criminal charges, alleging he retained classified documents after he left the White House. Outside, his supporters were there in force, but not the thousands anticipated. Inside the court in Miami, Trump is said to have sat stony-faced after answering 37 felony counts. Earlier, he'd been booked and a DNA sample given, but no mugshot was taken. Afterwards, Trump called in at a Cuban restaurant where he gave his first reaction to the indictment.
I think it's a rigged deal here. We have a rigged country. We have a country that's corrupt. We have a country that's got no borders. We have a country that's got nothing but problems.
Trump then traveled to his golf course in Bedminster to make an appearance before his followers and political donors. He's the front-runner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination.
Today we witness the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country. Very sad thing to watch. A corrupt sitting president had his top political opponent arrested on fake and fabricated charges of which he and numerous other presidents would be guilty, right in the middle of a presidential election in which he is losing very badly.
In typical Trump style, the former president is determined to turn his judicial problems to his political advantage. It's for American voters to decide if he succeeds.
An army trainee in Japan has shot 3 fellow soldiers at an army firing range, killing 2 of them. The 18-year-old suspect was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder at the Gifu prefecture in central Japan. Reports say he fired at other soldiers during a shooting exercise. Japan has a reputation for safety but has faced some high-profile violence in recent years. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida was almost hit by a pipe bomb at an election rally in April, and former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated in July 2022.
Mourners lighting candles and placing flowers at a service in the British city of Nottingham. Residents there are in shock after 2 19-year-old students and a man in his 50s were stabbed to death, and a van tried to mow down 3 other people. Police believe the incidents are linked and have arrested a 31-year-old man on suspicion of murder. While the motives remain unclear, the suspect in custody is believed to have a history of mental health issues. Revered American novelist Cormac McCarthy has died at the age of 89. Known for his bleakly violent apocalyptic visions of the American South, he was critically acclaimed by the likes of Stephen King and Oprah Winfrey. Widely seen as one of the US's greatest novelists, his most famous titles were The Road, All the Pretty Horses and No Country for Old Men, two of which were turned into well-received films. French police have been searching the Paris home of former President Nicolas Sarkozy. Prosecutors want him to face a new trial over alleged Libyan financing of his 2007 election campaign. Together with 12 others, Sarkozy is accused of seeking millions of euros in funding from the regime of the then Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi for his ultimately victorious presidency bid. Since leaving office, Sarkozy has been convicted twice, once for wiretapping. He's rejected any wrongdoing. The legal woes of British-American social media personality Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have gone up a notch. Romanian authorities have amended the charge against them to human trafficking in continued form, a more serious offence than separate counts. The brothers are under house arrest pending a criminal investigation for suspected human trafficking, rape and forming a criminal gang. They've denied the allegations. The case is expected to go to trial later this month. In Romania, trafficking of adults carries a prison sentence of up to 10 years.
A solemn tribute from both allies and opponents. The Italian Senate has paid its respects to the late Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi with a moment of silence. As divisive as he was, the media tycoon was Italy's longest-serving premier, and politicians came together to honour him. With mourning continuing inside his Milan residence, supporters have maintained a vigil outside, laying flowers and offering prayers.
Uno spirito, una grinta che aveva, che dimostrava in tutte le cose dove provava ad entrare, dalla televisione al calcio alla politica.
Preparations are being finalised ahead of Wednesday's state funeral in Milan's impressive Duomo. The number of mourners participating directly has been limited to 2,000, but many more will be present in the surrounding area. Millions are expected to tune in for a live TV broadcast from within Italy and beyond. The founder of Italy's Forza Italia party died on Monday, aged 86.
A vast camp for internally displaced people in northeastern Syria. The United Nations Refugee Agency says the number of people displaced by war, persecution, violence and human rights abuses has reached a record high. It's calling for concerted action, with its annual report noting that 19 million people were forced to flee their homes last year, an increase of 21%. As of the end of 2022, it says there was a total of over 108 million people forcibly displaced worldwide. This includes refugees, asylum seekers, internally displaced people and others in need of international protection. The war in Ukraine was the top driver of displacement last year. The number of refugees from that country soared from some 27,000 at the end of 2021 to 5.7 million at the end of 2022, the fastest outflow of refugees anywhere since World War II. The UNHCR says over half of those seeking safety come from just 3 countries, while 40% of all forcibly displaced people are children. And the upward trend in global forced displacement shows no sign of slowing down. In Sudan, as of the end of May, over 1 million people had been newly displaced internally and close to 400,000 had fled to neighbouring countries. And it's middle and lower income countries that are bearing the brunt, hosting 76% of the world's refugees and other people in need of international protection. The UNHCR is urging governments and NGOs to find new solutions to the growing problem and to ensure that those who have been forced to flee are not condemned to a permanent exile.
The European Union has again extended a ban on Ukrainian grain imports to 5 countries, including Poland. The move follows anger and protests from Polish farmers who were left with unsold grain or forced to sell it cheaply when faced with lower Ukrainian prices.
Spełniliśmy ich główny postulat, czyli wstrzymanie tej presji importu zbóż z Ukrainy. Dzisiaj nie ma tego zezwolenia, nie jest to legalne. Do 15 września co najmniej te zboża nie będą do Polski napływać. Jest możliwy tranzyt.
Although the decision of the EU, supported by the government, brings a temporary relief, it was not met with much approval from Polish farmers, who fear in 3 months they'll face the same problems.
Dzisiaj jest mówione o tym, że będzie całkiem zamknięte, ale do 15 września to nie daje praktycznie nic. Rolnictwo to jest zawód nie na chwilę, tylko na lata. Rolnicy z dnia na dzień utracili z korzyści, bo sprzedawali po o wiele niższej cenie. Dzisiaj praktycznie nie wiemy, co siać, co uprawiać, żeby to było sprzedawalne. Zachwiało to stabilnością, urwało kontakty nawet między młynami, mieszalniami pasz. Ten łańcuch kontrolowany od pola do stołu się urwał. My nie powinniśmy konkurować z Ukrainą, tylko jedni i drudzy eksportować, sprzedawać.
Experts insist it is worth taking care of Polish agriculture, which is not only ecological and meets EU standards, but also contributes to the increase of food security in Europe.
Problem konkurencji ze strony ukraińskiego rolnictwa dla rolnictwa polskiego jest bardzo poważny. Z czego to wynika? Z tego, że Ukraina ma bardzo dobre warunki dla produkcji rolnej. Ma tańszą siłę roboczą. Lekcją do odrobienia jest to, żeby Polacy sami się przygotowali i ponadpartyjnie jakąś strategię opracowali, ale to jest też apel do Unii Europejskiej, żeby jak podejmuje decyzje, szacowała, jakie będą skutki tych regulacji.
Blocking imports of the Ukrainian grain as a temporary solution, does that not satisfy any of the parties? Considering the good of this cooperation as well as Ukraine's approachment with the EU, a systematic long-term solutions are needed. Magdalena Hodownik for Euronews from Rogów.